Welcome. I'm Dr. Ricardo Whyte, an addiction psychiatrist and medical director at one of the chemical dependency units down here in Southern California. And I'd like to welcome you to my course, Purpose in 3D. I've seen thousands of patients coming in for mental illness and addictions, and the pattern that I've noticed that it's critical for them to get their minds around in order to experience lasting recovery is this notion of purpose, understanding what is their purpose. And I committed myself to creating a course that would help you, just by you sitting there and experiencing it, you would get insights into what your purpose is. So I'm going to share with you the 3 dimensions of purpose, and I'm going to lay it out over 3 video segments. In this first segment, we're going to talk about your path. The first dimension of purpose is your path. Travel with me over to Germany, where in a little cafeteria, we encounter John talking to his 3 friends, frustrated because what they initially thought was a blessing is now starting to feel like a curse. You see, John and his friends had dreamed about playing together, and they got taken on by this nightclub, and if anything, the guy started to exploit them because they would be playing 6 to 7 nights per week, like 12-hour days, and they just felt overwhelmed and frustrated at that experience. And the interesting part is, what ended up happening was the very thing that they thought was a curse over time gave them a distinguishing feature as a band. You see, when other bands would start to fall off and start to sound like they were tired, this band, because of that Hamburg experience, because they were playing in the town of Hamburg, Germany, they would develop actually finer tune and actually sound even better with time, where other people would get tired. Have you experienced that? Have you ever noticed that just when you thought the experience was mundane, just when you thought the path had no purpose, it actually was playing an important role in something that you're having to do now? Well, let's leave Germany and let's go over to Egypt, where we find young Joe. Joe was raised as a pet by his parents. He was the favorite. And his siblings noted this and were very frustrated by this, to the point where they conspired and got Joe taken into slavery in Egypt. And Joe made a determination on his way to Egypt that he was not going to give up. And so when he got to Egypt and he got to his master's house, he continued to do his best. Well, this was noted by his master, and in no time, he was actually promoted to be like the chief steward of the home, watching over everything. The master could trust him with everything. But it wasn't only his master's eye that noted Joseph's diligence. It was also the master's wife, and she made advances at Joseph, and he continued to resist until eventually she cornered him, and he had to run for his life, but not before she clutched onto his clothing and then accused him of being a rapist. Joseph was then thrown in jail, wrongfully accused, but he continued to stay focused on his purpose. And he now was noted by the chief jailer, and then he was promoted again to be watching over the jail. Can you imagine what it must have been like for this young man, who he's staying dedicated, he's staying focused, he's continuing to make the best of his path, and yet things are just not going right for him? Well, in no time, Joseph ends up being freed from jail, and he becomes the prime minister of the most powerful nation at that time. Would you believe that when reviewing the story, what you end up learning is that each dimension of his path contributed to making him a great prime minister? Lastly, we could think about a courageous traveler. This traveler was traveling in one of the more dangerous parts of town, And just as he was figuring, oh my goodness, I'm making it through safely, he then noticed that someone had met quite a significant misfortune. The person was practically lifeless. And he knew that he really should keep going, but instead he decided, let me help this person out. Let me put my life at risk. And so he did just that. He nursed the person's wounds. He put him on his donkey, took him to an inn. And then he said, look, man, if there's any other charges that he incurs, put it on my tab. When I come back this way, I'll pay for that too. That story has been recited millions of times, and there is no way on earth that Good Samaritan knew that that would be the consequence of what he thought was going to be just this obscure act. The question is before you. Are you taking your path for granted? Are you feeling frustrated by how mundane it may feel? Do you feel perhaps that you have been subjected to injustice and so now you're tempted to give up? Or perhaps you're thinking, these are just obscure elements. No one is even noticing what it is I'm doing. I want you to remember these stories. These are all true stories. That first group that I talked about, that was the Beatles, John Lennon and his three friends, who went on to be one of the greatest bands of all time because they allowed their Hamburg experience to cultivate skill sets and a discipline that made them unparalleled in terms of their skill set. And my encouragement to you is to not miss that with your path. You've been entrusted with a path. There are elements of it that are shaping your character, that are helping you to deal with some of your limitations. But it's an opportunity for you to get better and better, and it's actually preparation for greatness. The grind that you are experiencing right now, that you are tempted to take for granted, it's grinding out deficiencies, it's helping you get stronger, and it's preparing you for something to come. Don't take it for granted. So many parents today are missing the opportunity of helping children develop the discipline of taking their chores seriously. This is the first training they're getting in terms of developing a character that's going to take care of them for the rest of their life. So don't miss the importance of the grind. Also, don't let injustice have you lose sight of you still have a purpose. You still have to stay connected. You still need to stay committed. Don't let injustice, one day justice will fall like rain. So stay committed, stay hopeful. And lastly, perform like you're on candid camera. God is watching you. He's watching you. And wouldn't it be awesome to live life in such a way that when you and God sit down to review your life and the drama of it, you are proud of how committed you were even in the face of adversity. So what can you do from this point going forward? I want you to comment below on what part of this really touched you, what part of this really impacted you, how was this helpful to you? Invite your friends, invite family, share this with people who need something to kind of pick them up a little bit, all right? And I want you to grab a journal and start writing about the path that you've been blessed with, some of the struggles that you've had that are helping shape you and make you even better. Again, hit the like button, leave a comment. I want to know that you are out there. I'll try to respond to your comments. And I'll see you in the next segment where we're going to deal with the next dimension of your purpose. How is your purpose specifically custom tailored to you? How is it specifically custom tailored to you? What responsibility do you have with your purpose? We're going to find out about that in the next video. Look forward to seeing you.